Good evening from London. How are we all doing? Have we had a good weekend? It was Valentine's Day yesterday. Did you get any? I actually had quite a surprising Valentine's Day, so I hope you guys did too. It's been quite a week of it. Quite glad it's Sunday. And we have a show for you tonight. I have been trying to get this man on Wicked Women for a while, and thankfully he's here tonight, and you're going to really, really enjoy the show because he's really fantastic at what he does. Apologies from Val. Val's going to be gone for a little while longer, and we wish her all the best until she's better and strong enough to come back. But she's watching, so she sends all her love. So that means I have a space for a co-host, and I think I'm going to have to bring him in because, you know, that's what he is my co-host. Hey, Michael, how are you doing? I can't bring you in. Why is that not going in? How weird. It's not letting him in. How weird. Let me try. There you go.
All
hey,
right. There
let you in. How weird was that?
It must not like me today.
I was trying to get you in, and it was like, no, no.
Mm-mm.
How are you?
Pretty good, first of all. Happy Valentine's Day, love.
Oh, and right back at you. How was your Valentine's? Did you have a good one?
Paid by the hour, cuddle with the dog.
Well, you know.
You know how it is, right? No, that's what I did. I just sat here, worked on my studio. I'm my own Valentine. Wendy's like, oh, you didn't send me a Valentine. I said, I tried to call you. I said, you out doing Valentine's Day thing, so you know, better late than never.
The hundreds of you know, you and I are obviously like, sorry, Val can't be with us tonight, and it's going to be a while. But I'm going to bring in the lovely Paul Alland because you and I have been waiting to bring this guy. So let's bring him in. Hello, sweetie. Let's come on. There you are. Hello.
Good evening. Thank you for having me on. First of all, it's been a while, and I know that you've been going, Paul, get your backside on here. So first of all, my pleasure.
Where have you been?
And and can I send my best wishes to Val as well? And
she will be she was gutted because she really, really wanted to be here, but she can't. But yes, you and I met. Let's go back on some of the history. First of all, welcome to Wicked Women. We are so glad to have you here. We had your partner in crime, or our partner in crime, Mr. English, a couple of weeks ago, and he was like, oh my God, it's going to be such a good show when Paul's on. So I'm like, yeah, it will be. He said, you'll get more viewers with Paul than you will me.
Oh, bless him. I love Mark. He's a great guy.
Do you remember, like, I remember when we first met, I was doing Basingstoke Comic Con with the Impala. Yes. And Mark was like, my mate's here, my buddy's here. And we went out the back and started filming you, and you were in a crowd, weren't you?
Yeah, I was in a queue to meet Jeffrey Dean Morgan, who is in Supernatural as the Winchester's dad, John Winchester, and of course from The Walking Dead as well. So big fan of Supernatural. So of course when I saw you in Impala, I was like, whoa.
And I still owe you it. I still owe you a ride.
Both of the ladies are head turners for sure. Wendy in the car.
Tell him what it's like, Paul, because you've seen it. Tell him what it's like.
Oh, it's amazing. But to hear it as well, that for me, it's that sound. It's like a purring cat, isn't it? It's just that.
When she roars.
Yeah, when she roars. Yeah, it's just next level. But I've not had the pleasure yet, like Wendy said, to actually go and have a drive in it. So I'm looking forward to that. So
shame on her.
Well, we're going to film it, and I might have to bring Mr. English along for that because I just think it would be such a cool. That'd be such a cool thing to do. He'd be well up for it. I know that.
Before we take the ride in the Impala, watch the video with Mark.
He's like,
yeah, nervous passenger.
He was scared shitless. He was, I thought I was going to get a Ouija board to contact Mark to make sure he's all right. But boy, she rocks that big girl right down them little bitty streets in the UK, and we have a lot of them here. And that's like, I went to get a haircut before Wicked Women one Sunday, like a pop-up little car show. There was all of these cars. I'm just, with the iPhone, I'm just taking pictures, and it's sometimes, I forget that they're not so prevalent there. And it's really, I think everybody needs a little bit of Wicked in their life and a little bit of American Muscle.
I mean, just before we go into Paul, I just have to do this because as we're talking about her, like, there she is.
Oh, look at that. See, I think all my viewers would be so happy they saw me turning up at the cemeteries and that.
I think you need to do an Unusual Things in the Impala, like one-off in the Impala, right?
That would be amazing, wouldn't it?
Because I think that would be a really good show, and it'd be like, mind you, we'd have to creep in. So talking about unusual things, like, let's get going. Paul, I came across your channel through Mark. Mark told me all about your work, and I went and subscribed. So unusual, so interesting. You have a style all of your own. And before we go and look at your channel and look at it, tell me a bit about you, Paul. Where you're from, what's your background, how you got into this?
Okay, so I'm in Portsmouth in the UK, so just so Michael knows, on the very, very south coast.
Oh, yes.
Obviously massive naval city. So yeah, I've been here most of my life. I was in the Royal Air Force for a couple of years when I was younger, but I had a bit of an injury, so I couldn't do the job that I joined up for, so I left. So then I didn't really know what career path or where to go. So I had so many different jobs, and I've done everything. I've worked in an undertaker's, I've worked in security, taking money into the banks. I've worked as a personal bodyguard. That's the most boring job in the world. I was a special police constable for 3 years once I left the armed forces. And then I just sort of fell into radio in 2003. I started off at hospital radio, so it was a voluntary thing, and I thought, if I go there, I can learn the basics about radio. I know that I can talk for hours because I just do. That's just me. And I love music as well. So I started off doing hospital radio, and then I sort of progressed. I contacted my local radio station, and that started to grow a little bit. And then in 2008, because I'm really into the paranormal and things like that, I managed to get a paranormal radio show, which was doing really well. And we had David Wells, formerly of Most Haunted, was our sort of, he used to do the astrology then, so he'd come on and do like the different star signs. He wasn't really interested so much in doing any of the paranormal stuff, but he did come on and work with us doing star signs. And we had a number of guests on from different backgrounds, including Mark, of course, Mark English, who came in to talk about paranormal because he was doing his paranormal investigations at the time. So I got to build a relationship more with Mark then, and a good friendship. So Mark came in. I think it was on, we had it for about 3 months, and it sadly got cancelled, but I was still working in radio anyway. So I was still doing lots of different shows. And obviously YouTube really, I would say, came into my life, what are we now? Quite late. So probably about 5 or 6 years ago. I started off doing a paranormal show, but then I realized that there were so many paranormal channels on YouTube. It's the market is absolutely flooded. Then I went and did some urban exploring. So I was out with my mate, and we go around all these different buildings, which I absolutely loved. But again, it's absolutely flooded. It's really hard to try and get your foot on the ladder with YouTube, as you guys know.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it is difficult. It really is. And I think sometimes you just need a little bit of a lucky break of the algorithm just picking you up and throwing you up in the air, which is what happened with Unusual Things, really. The first grave I went to visit was Alec Guinness, who, of course, played Obi-Wan Kenobi in the original Star Wars movie, because he is buried 20-minute car drive from me. And I thought, I'll just go and film his and see how it pans out. But just jumping back a little bit, the reason that I started with the graves was because I used to watch a lot of channels from your neck of the woods, Michael, in America. I used to watch Scott on Tape. I used to watch Grim Life Collective, Malfunction, Adam the Woo, bless him, who's no longer with us, sadly. And I used to watch those sort of channels where they used to go around the graves. And I looked into this country, and at the time, there was only one person doing it. And him and I did do a collaboration later on. But he's a lovely guy, English grave, but he never goes on camera. He just films and then puts subtitles on the screen. And I thought, that's brilliant. It's a good idea. But I wanted to have my personality in front of the camera because I know I've done my radio work before, and I just felt that I would be able to bring the right element to it for me and how I wanted the show to go. And then it just blossomed, really. I just kept putting them out. At one point, I was putting 2 out a week, but it got too much with the traveling because I do work as well. So it was getting a bit too much. So I had to reduce it down to 1 a week, which is what I do now, of course.
You can't let your hobby take over your full-time job if that's petrol in the car.
No.
So the Air Force. So when I was in the Army, I seen a lot of different things, that I could not explain. And I've seen a lot of older places. And it's kind of weird, with the background you come from, being in the armed forces. And I always tell them, it don't matter what flag you wear on your shoulder, they're all brothers and sisters to me.
Yeah, definitely.
And but like I said, I was watching it, your little intros you do. I'm like, this man has a smooth radio voice, and that's because I was wanting to talk to you before I did it, but I could kind of tell there was a little media background there, and it sounds like you kind of found your niche. I kind of found mine out of boredom.
Yeah.
When I got out, I didn't have nothing to do. I had all this energy going on, and the paranormal was strange and unusual. So it just kind of pulls me into it. But so
just so people know, Paul, because I'm going to show them a clip, and then you're going to tell us about your channel, because people might go, "What's he doing? Like, what are they talking about?" So I'm going to just bring in this little tiny video. It's going to come on the side, and Paul just sent it to me. He's like, "Just do this. This one's fine. Just take this." So let's bring this one on. This is a little clip of some of the stuff that Paul does.
Holy shit! I was just out filming. Look at this grave. You ever seen the film It?
Now, Paul, tell us what exactly is Unusual Things and what do you do?
Okay, well, again, things find their own path in life, because when I started the channel Unusual Things, originally I was going to go and film a few graves, like celebrities' graves, just tell a little bit of their story, and then I was going to take the channel off in another direction, which was I was going to contact people that had different jobs or different hobbies and just go and spend half a day with them and film it, hence Unusual Things. But when I started doing the graves, I really enjoyed it, and I thought, this is great, I love this. But I also grew up next to a cemetery in Portsmouth, and as a kid I used to go in there and feed the crows. I'm obsessed with crows, and I used to feed the crows as a kid, and it was almost like a little bit of escapism for me. So I love being in cemeteries anyway, in churchyards. All my friends think I'm a bit strange and weird, but to me it's great because there's not a lot of living people there. You get peace and tranquility in your own head, and you get your own space and time to think, which is what I like. So that's how the channel started. Like I say, the title Unusual Things was purely because I was going to go and find these random people, I don't know doing what, that had interesting or unusual jobs or hobbies, and spend time with them and film it. But the cemetery just sort of went off on a path. After I did Alec Guinness, I went and did Benny Hill in Southampton, and then Frederick Fleet, who was the lookout guy on the Titanic. So those 3 alone just skyrocketed the channel. And I thought, oh, hang on, I'm onto something here. And if nothing's broke, then don't try and fix it. You've got to run with what you're given. So I just carried on, and I seem to have opened a whole can of bloody worms for myself because I'm running out of like big name graves. So now it's got me thinking, right, okay, I also do victims of crime as well. So I've constantly got to think a little bit outside the box, because what can happen sometimes is you put a video out, and if it's not a big name and people look at the thumbnail, they go, oh, I'm not interested in that. But there could be a really good, interesting story with that person. And that's the hardest part about a channel and doing what I do. Yeah, I do get some amazing, real loyal, regular viewers who watch everything. I put anything out and they'll watch it, and they're so. I love all the viewers. I love interacting with them as much as possible. I can see a couple of names on the comments now from a couple of my regular viewers, which is great. So thanks for coming, guys. Sorry, I'll talk with my hands a lot. So
what I was going to say, I'm like, when you were young and younger, were you always drawn to cemeteries and stuff like that?
Yeah, as I say, I grew up next to a cemetery, so I used to go in there quite a lot as a kid, and I used to just find it a place of tranquility. Again, like I say, I got diagnosed a couple of years ago with ADHD, but my brain was racing all the time as a kid, and I never understood why. It was just like I couldn't handle built up areas and lots of people. So for me, that was my place of peace and tranquility. But obviously, as a child, I didn't really understand why. But now, as an adult, looking back, I'm like, yeah, it makes sense now. And I think that's why I still like them. And I feel it's almost like it's a second home, you know, because it's just, A, there's history there. B, every single person in there has had a life. And I bet some of them have had the most amazing lives. And, you know, if their headstones could tell stories, it would be brilliant. But that's what I try to do. I try and do the research and then tell their story. And one thing that I'll hold my hands up to, I don't do it now, but when I first started, I used to get a lot of shit. Am I allowed to swear on here?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Oh, you haven't saw our podcast, you ought to hear me. And no, but you're allowed, because I have seen how respectful you treat the cemeteries and how you tell the stories. And if it's a crime one, you're like, we're interested about the person who is the victim, and basically fuck the person who put them here.
Yeah,
and,
exactly.
And I'm like, in the one just talking about, if you could have like 5 minutes with the dude who killed these kids, the fucking deadbeat. I'll say it. You know what I'm saying? I'm in America, let old Bill knock on my door. I would love it. That's in the dog out. But now I watch GBN and a lot of the British TV, and see him come from a talk show to do a conservative news program. I'm like, boy, this guy's went a long ways, but he was kind of like the Jerry Springer of the UK. And I remember seeing the guy on with the 6 kids to 2 wives, and then he wanted to play the hero.
Yeah.
And he kills kids, and I'm thinking,
just so the other people know who we're talking about, Paul, tell us about the guy that Michael's talking about.
His name has gone completely out of my head. Mick Philpott, that's it. Mick Philpott. And he burnt his house to try and get an upgrade for the council, basically. But his 6 kids sadly perished in there. And he's an arrogant son of a bitch, and he's in prison still now. And he thought he was going to get away with it. And like you say, he went on it was Jeremy Kyle show, which was, like you say, similar to Jerry Springer show. Yeah. He was on there playing Billy Big, basically. Yeah, a horrible, nasty piece of work. But that was a very upsetting visit, because I took flowers. I always take flowers for the kids' graves.
That's what I was going to say. I always see you give the flowers. And the guy who got killed in the road rage incident, that must have been his aunt or something that came down, the way you handled yourself with her. I'm thinking, and she just wanted to tell her loved one's story. And you give her an outlet to put out, this guy that killed him was a piece of garbage, and he has much to live for, and he was always happy. But like I said, some of them that you do, like the man who killed his wife on his son's grave, I'm like, I just need to get in my rowboat, and maybe I'm like,
what we're talking about. Tell us a bit about, we won't speak. We'll let you tell us. Tell us about a bit about this terrible story about a lady that was killed on by her son's grave by the father and her ex-husband.
Yeah, basically, she was visiting her son. Now, there's a lot of. I got a little bit of a bashing for this from a family member, but because there was a lot of, did the son take his own life on purpose, or was it an accident? Now, from what I read, it looked like he did it on purpose. However, a family member got in contact and said, no, he was experimenting with something which went wrong. So that's as far as I'm going to take that whole synopsis of that part. I'm going to put that to one side, because, again, I don't know 100%. I'm only going on from the research that I did. And I have to be respectful and thoughtful to that family member, of course. So the lady was visiting her son's grave, and the ex-husband was hiding literally in the bushes. And in the video, I pan around so you can see the area. And he must have been quite well hidden back, because the son's grave was in quite an open area. Oh. And from what I've researched, she was tending to her son's grave, and the ex-husband came up and just killed her there and then. And it's terrible to think that someone that's grieving their son and is actually at his place where he's buried, is then her life is then taken and ended there. And when you're sort of there, even though I'm busy trying to make sure that I do justice for the family as best I can and keep it all respectful, you're still consciously aware that that's the scene of a murder, basically. And it's the last place you would expect it to be, in a cemetery. It's not anything that I've heard of on a regular basis. You know, it's very rare you hear of a murder actually happening in a cemetery, of someone visiting one of their kids. So yeah, it was a real sort of haunting story, and a real eerie feel to the area as well. It just felt really heavy. You know, it's sad.
Can I ask a question? Because we've both got questions and we don't want to interrupt you. So
Oh, no.
we're trying to let you finish. We'll put our finger up when one of us has a question.
No, I don't talk too much. Just punch me.
That's okay. When I put my finger up, I've got a question. When you went to the grave, I'm sure that the energy, I mean, how did you feel when you were there?
It did feel very heavy. A lot of my viewers know that I've done a lot of paranormal work over probably about 20 years. I'm quite sensitive to energies. I'm not saying I'm psychic or anything like that, but I do pick up on whether it's heavy or whether it just feels happy. Or so yeah, so that energy there, it felt very sad, and it just felt real. And you can just, if you are quite open to that and you can feel it, just walking within that region, it just felt so heavy. And it was the same when I went to where the two girls, Holly and Jessica, was it Holly and Jessica? Yeah, where they got murdered by Ian shit for brains.
Yes,
Can't remember his name.
yes, I know.
Yes.
I think he's been blinded in prison now, so that's a good thing. But
Every dog has their day. Every dog has their day.
Oh my day! But again, the house, they've torn all of the apartment. I think it's a bungalow actually. But they've torn it down. But the atmosphere there was horrible. It was heavy. It was probably one of the worst I felt. It was just nasty. You just felt the evil in the air. So yeah, going to those sort of places, they can be a little bit traumatic. And afterwards, off camera, I always have about 5 or 10 minutes of just walking around away from the area, just get myself back to, you know, grounding myself. And because it's not nice to sort of be in that area where you can pick up and feel all that energy all the time.
Talking of cemeteries, one of my I want to bring in Brookwood Cemetery, which is in Surrey. It's quite a famous cemetery. It has a great. When I went there, I didn't realize the history behind it. They have the whole Canadian and military, American military, all different sort of nations. And there's quite a few famous people in Brookwood. It's also, I mean, like, Mark doesn't like the word haunted, as we discovered, so we use the word active, but it's quite active. It's got its own energy when you go there. And I was watching the one that you said, did I hear the train at Brookwood Cemetery? Now the thing is, when I went there was talk about Freddie Mercury. His ashes may or may not be there with his parents, but his parents are there, aren't they? Freddie Mercury's parents.
I can't remember if it's his parents or his grandparents there. One of them, yeah, but definitely a relation of his there. I don't know. Someone said to me the other day grandparents, and someone said parents, but I haven't had a look yet. But you may be right. Yeah, maybe his parents. It's but I know he's definitely got some family member there. But
like when you go there, like I was blown away by how big Brookwood Cemetery is. And if people are from not from the UK, type in Google Brookwood Cemetery, you'll see how big it is. It's, you just keep walking, and walking, and there's some beautiful tributes to a lot of people. And you found quite a few interesting people there, didn't you?
Yeah. I mean, I went there initially in 2022 or 23, I think it was. And I covered quite a few of the famous ones then. But then when I went back recently, I found some ones that I wasn't necessarily looking for. Some people that have got some real interesting past and family ties to different areas as well. But what's great about Brookwood is that they have a little QR code. So if it's a famous grave or someone of some notoriety, you can zap it on your phone and you've got the information there. If every cemetery had one of those, my life would have been made so much easier over the years. But yeah, I love Brookwood, and I filmed 2 parts there, and I've yet to go back because I haven't even covered half of it, to be honest. But it's such a lovely cemetery, like you say. You just walk for miles, and it's got so much history in it.
And
You
also,
get your steps in.
tell us about the train, because Michael and I both watched this video, but there was a train that London was so overcrowded and there was not enough cemeteries and people were just kind of being, put out anywhere. And then they apparently decided to do a cemetery out of London, and Brookwood came up. Tell us about the train and how they did all that, and what it must have been like back then, bringing your loved ones by train to Brookwood.
Yeah, well, like I showed in the video there, for those that haven't seen it, if you go and watch it, there is some old tracks that are left there still. Now, in terms of, I wasn't doing any sort of paranormal investigating. I was there purely to film and to let people know about it. However, I did hear, and I picked it up on camera, what sounded like a train build up, and then a woman's voice in the distance. Now, straight away, my head is always rule out every possible variable. There were no trains coming or leaving. I didn't see or hear any people per se, if you like, around me. Because usually sometimes on a train, before the train arrives, you'll hear a bit of noise and commotion through the tracks. It's just nature. It's just natural. Just vibrates through, so you'll hear that. But at the time I looked and there was no trains there at all. So to pick up that sound was very, okay, that's a bit of an interesting one. And there had been reports before from other people that they've heard trains coming down. Now, in terms of people's bodies and stuff, like you say, London got to a point where it was overfilling. They had no places for the cemetery, for the bodies, sorry. So they literally shipped them down by train to Brookwood. And they had people that were religious in certain sections and people that were non-religious in other sections. So even on your death, you were still in like a class, they were still splitting people up into certain believers and non-believers and buried accordingly as well. So it's got so much history to it. And I can't remember how many, I did look it up. It's completely gone out of my head now, how many bodies there were that were transferred down over time. But then obviously it stopped. The railway got dismantled and all the rest of it. But there are lots of reports there that people do hear tracks. And apparently there's supposed to be a Victorian lady that gets seen every now and again. And it's almost like she's walking around, but I've never encountered that. But that's just for other people.
I was going to ask you, the first video I saw before yours, like I said, I'm big into the UK history. I got family members. I probably need to send you their location so you can look at their grave. That's from the UK. My family came over on the Mayflower. But I had saw the video and it's like, if you had money, you got a better class of funeral on the train. And I thought,
yeah,
ain't that a bit posh? If you're broke, they throw you, in the caboose and drag you to the cemetery. But if you had money and you paid for what, like funeral car you wanted, and I'm like, like you said, the has and has nots. Have you been to where? I know this guy, and I forget where it was, but he went to the place where the train made a special stop if they had a funeral, and they'd load the bodies on the train, and everybody would kind of disperse out into their train. They'd take it, unload the body at the cemetery. They'd have their little service. Then they would, when you got done, you just stood there and you waited. The train would take you back, to the station. It's like a funeral home with a railroad. And I'm like, somebody paid somebody somewhere for a special stop. And I'm like, but I thought that was the neatest thing because, as long as you live, you end up knowing more people are dead than you do alive, and you end up attending more funerals as you age. And I'm thinking, never been to a funeral on a train. I've seen some interesting things, but I've never seen, one that involved a train, which I know there's a lot of train people here that would love to have, I seen a guy, that owned the garage here that worked on nothing but big trucks, the big lorries, as you call them. And and I was a pallbearer. And when we buried him, we put him on the back of a flatbed truck, and that was his hearse to his final resting place. But I thought, a train ride, but I guess, you use what you got at hand. But I was going to, so I know I watched it, I know you do a lot of churches and stuff like that. And I meant to ask you a while ago, can you tell everybody there is a name, and I heard it the other day and asked you before we come on. What do you call somebody who likes to hang out in cemeteries? And we'll see how many we got in the comments that can agree.
See if they know. It's called a taphophile. So TAPHO, I think it's FILE at the end, or was it PHILE? I can't remember, but it's TAPHO. It's either PHILE or FILE. I can't remember off my head, but yeah, taphophile. And you probably get some people to go, yeah, I'm one of those, or what the hell is that?
But you're talking about growing up next to a cemetery. I grew up.
Me too.
A cemetery across from me. I grew up way out in the country. And if you ever get over, I'd take you to the cemetery. But everybody in that cemetery died of unnatural causes, which is, you want to talk about unusual. And everybody's like, but my grandmother, I was, when I was little, I'm not afraid to say it. I was scared to death to walk from my parents' house to her house after dark. I'm like, all them people over there. She's like, it's not the dead you got to worry about. It's the living. Oh, she told me. Like I said, I have been waiting so long for this because, like I said, I watched the videos. And I'm like,
excited. I mean, like literally, your work is it's fascinating, and it's like you can watch one and then put another one, and then watch one and put another one. Paul, for you, what were some of your heroes that you have gone to see, and what ones really sort of touched you?
Well, most of my viewers know I'm a massive George Michael fan, so going to see George's grave for me was next level.
And where is George? Tell us a bit about George, where he's buried, and
I didn't know he died.
He's buried in Highgate Cemetery in North London, and there's two sides to it, and I think there's a west side and an east side. I think he's the west side, if memory serves me well. If someone pulls me up, that's fine. But yeah, and he's buried next to his mum, and then sadly his sister died 3 years to the day after him. So she also died on Christmas Day 2019. I know, it's bonkers. And his mum was born on Christmas Eve.
Christmas Eve and Christmas Day, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's crazy. So he died Christmas Day. His mum was born Christmas Eve, and his sister died Christmas Day 3 years after him. So there's a lot of Christmas related, and to think of the song that he wrote as well, like Last Christmas is like. So yeah, I mean, in terms of like celebrity per se, he's probably been my favorite. In terms of like, I was this is going to sound bonkers. Michael might not know who he is, but you were at Wendy. Rod Hull and Emu, right? I was a massive Rod Hull fan as a kid. I just thought he was so funny. Okay. And he was one of the first graves that I also went to. And I remember walking around. It's in Surrey, actually. I can't remember where it is. It's not too far from London. It's just outside. And I remember walking around thinking, where the bloody hell is he? Because I just couldn't find it. And then I found it. And it's just got the cutest little headstone. And it was quite touching because he was part of my childhood growing up watching Rod Hull and Emu. And I just like the way that he got away with blue murder with a bloody puppet on his hand, grabbing people's asses and God knows what else. And yeah. And another favorite.
So he's a little more fresh, or what do you call it, cheeky than Benny Hill. When you talk about going to Benny's grave, I remember I used to get up at night. I'd watch Benny Hill late at night. My mom and dad would get up like, "Oh, you watching that trash? Get the shit beat out of you, put you to bed." You're thinking, but I did get to finish Benny Hill, but it was worth it because and oh my God,
Benny Hill's great. And he died. He had so much money in his bank, but he lived a very sort of poor man's life. He lived in a really sort of dingy flat and all that sort of stuff. And it's a shame, really.
Yeah.
That was quite heartbreaking, wasn't it? Because if I can just interrupt, I loved Benny Hill, and he got a very bad press in later years for not being politically correct. But just to mention here, it was the women that were chasing him, and the women that were after him, not the other way around. He was just obviously quite cheeky. But he was alone, wasn't he? Did you ever go to Kenneth Williams from the Carry On films? Have you done him?
He was cremated. I can't remember if it was, he was cremated at the same place as I think Wendy Richards from EastEnders, of course, and wow, oh God, what's it? Grace Brothers. What was that show?
Are You Being Served?
Yeah, Are You Being Served? She was in that, wasn't she? So I think she was cremated at the same place as him. So I did like cover the cemetery in the crematorium area, and I had like their pictures on the thumbnail, so I covered that. But yeah, so Kenneth Williams was there, the same as oh my God, no, I'm terrible bloody names.
What about Sid James?
Sid James, that's what I was going to say. Yeah, Sid James, he was at Golders Green, where Babs Windsor was cremated as well. So I've covered them. Yeah, Golders Green's a great place, crematorium wise.
I need to go to Highgate. I have not been to Highgate, and so it looks absolutely stunning from there. Now, have you ever come up this way at all, where I am?
Where are you?
I'm in Sutton in Surrey.
Sutton, yes. I've covered Surrey quite a lot, but I've been to so many cemeteries. I mean, even if you said a name of the cemetery to me, I'd be like.
The reason I ask is there's a crematorium and a cemetery near me at Thornton Heath, and they made a film back in the 80s. I can't remember it. So let me just find the name. And it was Derek Bentley. Have you been to his grave?
Derek Bentley.
No, that made you think now, haven't I?
No, I've been to over 400.
Let me tell you about Derek Bentley, because until I felt really sad when I saw his grave, and I'm bringing up so I got the exact year. Derek Bentley is quite a sad case. He was a British guy who was hanged for being accomplice of a murder of a policeman during the attempted burglary. And his accomplice, Christopher Craig, who was then 16, was convicted of the murder. Bentley was convicted as a party to the crime under the English law. And because he was slightly older, they hung him.
Yeah.
Yes,
give it to him, George, or something. He said,
yeah.
But also, just what I wanted to say about this is that he actually had mental health issues, and when he was saying give it to him, what he was actually saying was give the gun to them, give the gun. Well, anyway, he didn't. They basically hanged an innocent guy, and obviously someone who was not. He had mental health issues, and poor guy. I went to the crematorium and I saw the grave, and I wanted to cry, because here was this guy on 28th of January, 1953 at 9 a.m. He was hanged at Wandsworth Prison in London by Albert Pierpoint, who's a fascinating guy, and we will be looking at him in a future episode. There were protests outside the prison, and 2 people were arrested and fined. In March 66, Bentley's remains were removed from Wandsworth and taken to Croydon Cemetery. And it took, his parents tried to get a pardon, and it took around, literally, I think I'm looking now, just recently, trying to get his name pardoned, because basically he should never have hung. Have you never been to his grave?
Yes, yeah, I have.
Yeah. I saw his video. It was actually really well, and that's another one. I was so mad when I got done watching it.
Very sad.
I was like,
I think his sister had it overturned recently, if memory serves me well. Yes. He's in the same cemetery as the boxer Gary Mason, the former British heavyweight. Yeah, he's not too far from him. There's another celeb there as well. I can't remember who it is now, but there's a third one. I remember. Yes, but there was a young girl that got. Do you remember the young girl that got murdered in Italy, and they blamed Amanda Knox, her roommate, the American girl?
Yes.
She's buried in there, but I haven't covered her grave yet. And then Amanda Knox wrote a book, didn't she? And she got acquitted and so forth. But yeah, the girl that got murdered, she's buried in that same cemetery. So I need to come up and do hers and tell her story, because that's so interesting with the whole Amanda Knox thing. And she's a multi-millionaire now, I think, isn't she? With the story.
Everybody has a book deal. I was going to ask you. I'm a huge Princess Diana fan. You know what I'm saying? And I know more about what's going on with the royal family now and I'll call Wendy. I'll be like, "You're not going to believe this." She's like, "You know more about it than I do." And she lives down the street. Princess Diana. Have you ever planned on doing her grave, or is it something that is unavailable to the public, or is it off limits? Or
there's a big discrepancy about this, because her brother said she's on the island. So, but he makes lots of money from people visiting there on the islands where you can't get across to. And apparently she's in a lead line coffin that would sink very slowly into that ground. However, there's a church along the road. I've made a film about this, Michael. I've made two actually, where her dad is. And under the ground, I go into it in the whole video. And I've had so many people, I won't ruin it for you, but on the second video, I talk about emails I received from security, from people in the town, from army people that were carrying the coffin. And apparently that night in the local village, power cut, loads of drilling, lots of going on, fresh cement in the grave underground where her dad is. So yeah, have a look at those two Princess Diana ones.
I suppose you could see why he would perhaps put as if she's somewhere else, because obviously if she is in with the family private, he probably doesn't want loads of people. But I mean, obviously, like, and also it's fitting that she has something at least like that. What about going back in time to historic medieval or historic graves? Tell us some of your favorites.
Oh wow. Well, ones that I've been to, you mean, or ones that I'd like to go to? Ones that I've been to. Well, Winston Churchill was obviously a nice one for me. So that stirs some shit up. But
I'm a huge fan of him. You know, it's like, what is it? Something other by like his last drop of British blood or something. He would defend the monarchy or something. And I'm like, and the whole thing he does it smoking a cigar, drinking brandy. And I'm a huge Churchill fan too. You know, Churchill, Patton, Montgomery, not so much.
Yeah, exactly. So he was a really good one in terms of historic wise. Isambard Kingdom Brunel, again, he was born in Portsmouth and obviously designed the bridges and designed Bristol Bridge and so many other things that he did as well. So he was a really good one to visit. Who else? I think anyone that's I try to keep my channel non-political. Okay, I have my views.
So do we.
Yeah.
Off the channel because I don't, it's not because the channel's not a political channel. So when I go and visit certain people, I'm very cautious and careful about how I word things, which is because it's a big can of worms for people. So I try not to go there. But political figures are interesting in what they say, what they do, and the stories that they, brought on to themselves for one reason or another. I'm trying to think of any big names that have had, apart from politicians, a lot of them aren't really, because a lot of them are more sort of celebrity. I mean, obviously there's people like the Krays, not celebrities, but real poignant people in history for what they did in terms of their gangster work and protection rackets in London. And there's always that question: would they protect stability and things on a level ground so everyone knew their place, or were they a pair of little toe rags that just formed shit? So you've always got that sort of 50-50 side of the argument with people like the Krays. But I like that because it brings out conversation.
I actually know someone who knows them very well. Or knew them very well, and very interesting man to talk to. One thing I wanted to say is, like, you went to Salem?
Yes.
That must have been absolutely amazing. Tell us about Salem.
Well, I predominantly went there for the witch trials. I wanted to go and tell their story because, again, they got a bum deal in life. Someone points, oh look, she's slagging me off, she must be a witch. Next thing you know, started off.
Cow went dry. My wife don't like me no more. The woman cursed me. She's a witch.
It really is. It's mad how they got away with it. So for the history part of it, that was great because I didn't hire a car there. I literally walked around Salem. I clocked up some steps that day, I'll tell you. But I went to the place where they hung them. There's a memorial bench there and their names, and then back into the town. And I just tried to cover as much as I could of it. But also, whilst I was there, I took a day trip to Boston. Loved Boston. Fell in love with the place. I've been to New York twice, and I love New York. But
that ain't real America. I'll say that's not real America. Everybody's like, oh, I've been to LA, New York, DC. I'm like,
I want to get in the middle somewhere. That's where I want to get. I want to get.
You want to get in the Appalachian Mountains, where I'm from,
Yeah,
because I'm in Bristol and Abingdon is right up the road. And if you look at the UK map, I always said these people had no imagination. You know, they put Bristol here, Abingdon right here. You know, it's just like, you know, you pick it up, put it over there. But
same as like Portsmouth in America, isn't it? It's on the East Coast. And they got
absolutely. These people had no imagination. They just recycle names. But Portsmouth, there is a beach I was going to ask you about, because I know you do the graves. And during the Blitz, there's a whole beach that is nothing but rubble from the bricks and all the stuff that come out of Portsmouth. I think it's Portsmouth, because I just saw a video on it. And you know, and there's parts of tombstones and brickwork, and I'm trying to breathe. Like I said, I have been waiting so long to talk, because, like I said, this is my stuff. You know, everybody thinks I'm weird, but I'm like, oh, I enjoy it. But I was watching this, and I was going to ask you, you know, and you said there, and I actually wrote that down on my book, so I could ask. Have you ever thought about doing a video about that? Because, you know, there is like bits and pieces. I guess, you know, bombs are indiscriminate. You know, when you're during the Blitz, you know, they assume, you know, bomb a graveyard or a churchyard or home.
Yeah.
They don't know where they're falling.
I've not covered anything on Portsmouth Beach per se, if you like. But I mean, even now they still find. The other day they found an unexploded bomb there. Do you know what I mean? So it's like there's always stuff that's just piping up here, there, and everywhere. But that may be something that I'll get onto one day and look into a bit more. Just jumping back to Salem, because otherwise I'll be on a tangent. Otherwise, I'll forget where I am.
Yes, I'm dealing with two men that have ADHD here, and I'm trying to keep you boys on track.
And one is overexcited. Yeah, one's overexcited that, because, like I said, you know, I've been watching the videos. I have been waiting so much.
Breathe. Let's just.
But even the Salem stuff that, you know, and I didn't mean to like take it there, but I, like I said, you know, once it pops in there, it's like it's got to come out. But
you want to get it out quickly before you forget it.
Just write it down, and then that way we know. Tell us about Salem. Finish Salem.
Yeah, so Salem. So I went out there obviously to cover the witches, which I did, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. I went out there for 5 days. I stayed at an Airbnb, funnily enough, directly opposite a cemetery. So I've made videos about that on both channels, on Unusual Things and on Paul's Adventures and Reviews, where I stayed at the Airbnb. And the cemetery opposite the road was massive again. So the first day I literally turned up, dropped my bags off, and I'm straight in there filming. I've just got off like a 7-hour flight. I'm walking around a cemetery, sweating my bits off because it was so bloody hot. And I was absolutely, shall I tell you what I was gutted about? I got there middle of September, hoping I would have an ultimate autumn in Salem. No, it was still summer. It was just pure heat. I was like, you prick, just let me have some more, because I love the autumn. It's my favorite time of year, or fall, as you guys call it. And that's what I wanted. I wanted that in Salem, but no, I just had extreme sunshine, which I'm like a vampire, because I'm like, yeah.
Did you have any unusual feelings when you went into like the Witch Museum, where they had like the, because that you could take pictures, but you couldn't film in there?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, they wouldn't allow me to film in there, but I could walk around taking pictures. I didn't really sort of feel any unease or anything like that in there, but I think that there was quite a few people in there, so there was a lot of energies of people walking around and stuff. And I'm always conscious, even taking photos, I try and be respectful of other people's privacy. I know some sort of YouTubers and whatever are shoving cameras in people's faces, and I wouldn't like that done to me, so I don't do it to other people. I respect their privacy. And also, they may be there on holiday, and if they're spending their time and money going somewhere, they don't want a camera shoved in their face. So in there, I didn't really sort of feel any unease. It was a beautiful building. It was, again, so historic, and just walking around. I love old. It was very much like a Tudor building as we would see it, but obviously in America, you know, it's
it had the three. It is like the triangles. If you haven't saw the video, that house, it just screams like, a Stephen King type. And it's like, you know, there's some bad shit's gonna happen in this house. You know, just turn around, go back to the car, don't go in.
It was like that. And also, whilst I was in Salem, I got a train and jumped up to a place called Ipswich, which is a little town in the middle of nowhere. Again, it was piddling down with rain, and I got absolutely soaked. But I went there to film the dad from the Home Alone's grave, John Hurd, who passed away a 2017. But I loved it because I was just like Northeast America in this little town I've never been to before. I jumped on the train, got there, soaking wet through, just doing my stuff, my YouTube stuff, and I was in my element. And I walked back into the town, found a little cafe, I sat down, and the ladies there were so nice. Yeah, you from England? You know, all that sort of stuff. Because I just felt like I was in the middle of nowhere, and I just sort of trundled in there, and I was like, this is cool. You know, I really enjoy that sort of lifestyle. So yeah, so I love that. And again, Ipswich, little bizarre place. Then I got a train back to Salem.
Did you feel like you have been born in the wrong country?
Yes.
Yes, I did. When I went out to Canada, and obviously I've been briefly on the States, but I feel drawn to it. And you do think like past life, maybe I've been here before, like you're drawn to it, aren't you?
Yeah, no, it's weird you say that because Canada is a place I've never been to. Oh. I feel weirdly drawn that I've got to get there for some reason. And I've always had Canada, and you're going to not like me for this, Michael, but I've always had like the east side of America in me where I've just felt like I want to go there and be there, especially like Salem. To me, that was like, wow, you know.
I'll tell you why that is.
Yeah, but it might just be
the Appalachian Mountains used to be part of Scotland and the western coast of the UK. And when Pangea split, and that's the reason a lot of the Scottish people and Irish all landed here.
Yeah.
Then they got so far back up here in these mountains that they was so removed from everybody else that they kept their accent and their traditions a lot longer than anybody else in America did.
Oh,
I know this is off what everybody's talking about being born in the wrong country.
Yeah.
They actually imported all of their cultures and their accent here. And me and Wendy's talked about this, you know, when I first met her, she's like, you know, we're both speaking English, but I can't understand a fucking word you're saying. Because the accent is so thick sometimes. And it gets soft, you know, the more I talk to her and the more I talk to my friends from other places. But if I'm stuck here around friends and family for like 3 or 4 days and nobody else, it gets really bad. But that's like, I've told her, I've always been drawn to the UK and I don't know why. Yeah. It's, you know, I've been there. I love it, you know, and I always tease her about, you know, to run the spice trade, but you didn't learn to put any in the food. And everybody's like, oh, you know, you're nice. I was like, you know, it's a joke. They get it, you know, but fish and chips. But no, if you ever get a chance to do like the whole East Coast, you know, this is where our history is and our older cemeteries are.
Yeah, yeah.
And as for Canada, like I'm due to go there as soon as I can, and literally, I will have to have a little visit round and see what I can find. And if you ever want to go, I'm the girl to ask, and where to go, because obviously it's a huge country. But I'm really, when I went out to Canada, one of the amazing places I went to was called Medicine. I think it's called Medicine Hat. Head Smash Buffalo, something like that. And where it is like it's where the the native Indians in their day would run off the buffalo, and the buffalo would drop down and they would sadly smash their head, and it was a very sacred ground because everything was, you know, they would thank the bison and for everything that they gave, and it was there to feed the village and everything for a year. But the ground was stained blood, you know, with blood, like red. Even now it's still got a red tinge. And when I went there, you know, I'm aware a lot of animals lost their lives. That's another question I was going to comment to in a minute, but a lot of animals lost their life, and you can feel the energy is palpable when you go there. There's even a vision quest. There's a place where they do their vision quest, and you're not allowed to go there, but you can feel the energy. And when I went there and I went to the museum, I couldn't breathe. I couldn't breathe when I was in there because it was like, it felt so strange but so familiar, and as if like there's something I couldn't access, I couldn't get to, like a memory that I couldn't reach. And I think when I went to North America, to Canada, I never realized that there was something in me waiting to be born. And that's what I was going to say, using that with animals, because do you ever do anything with like famous animals like Lassie and etc.? Have you been anywhere with any of them?
I haven't, no, but I'd like to, because it is something that I do get asked to cover. But it's a case of, really, for me, it's just like, obviously humans are easier because I can do a bunch of them at once. So I could drive half up the country and know that I could possibly do 3 or 4 visits. Whereas if I did an animal, I'd have to try and tie it in with some other grey visits as well. Otherwise it gets very costly, as you can imagine. But yeah, no, it is something that, you know, there's a lot. I'm an animal lover, and there's lots of animal lovers out there. So it would definitely be of interest to me, especially, like you say, if he's going to see like Black Beauty or Lassie or something. Yeah,
Sorry,
that's a famous one. Have you been up to Scotland? Have you done much work in Scotland?
I haven't. I've only been to Scotland many moons ago, once to Edinburgh. However, it is on my to-do list. I need to get my ass back up there because I want to go to Greyfriars anyway. And there's again the history part of it. There's so much.
Yeah, like I said, I don't get jealous so much, but like the older graves, and there's the castle that you went to here a while back, and it was like the big cathedral. And I'm thinking, you know, it looked like something Dracula would have lived in.
Is that in the Abbey up in not Whiteley? Bloody, come on, Paul. Where's Dracula film made? Oh my God.
Oh, but it was just so. And I saw that one too. Like I said, you know, once you know your videos. Once I started watching them, I'm like,
they are addictive, aren't they? They're addictive.
Yeah, I'm like, you know, fucking hooked.
And talking of going up the country, Liverpool. And I must bring in the Titanic because a lot of people are interested in the Titanic. Have you been and seen anything where the Titanic's? Because obviously I've watched, but for those that haven't, tell us about that.
I went to Northern Ireland, so I went to Belfast for the massive, great big sort of Titanic, where it was launched from. And in the video, the only rubbish part about that video is I was waiting on a mic to come through and it didn't come through, so the sound quality is a little bit naff because it was so windy. But they've got like an imprint on the ground where you can see actually how big the Titanic was. Like it's almost like someone's drawn around the outside of it. And there's a point right up in the sky, the top of the building, that is the height as well. And that thing was huge. That's like, you're like standing there going, Jesus, you know. But I went to lots of graves out there because there was a lot of people that worked on the Titanic as well. There was a lot of families. I went to the first death associated with the Titanic. It was a 15-year-old boy. Can't remember his name off the top of my head. Scott, someone I think it was. But yeah, I covered a lot out there. And then in Liverpool, I covered some Titanic stuff in Liverpool. I don't know. I've been to graves all over the country related to Titanic. Like I say, I've been to the Lookout guys, Frederick Fleet, and the other guy. The other guy's buried in Portsmouth, actually, not too far away.
Tell us about Frederick Fleet.
Well, he was the chap that was up in the Lookout, and they locked the cupboard or whatever, nicked off of the keys. They had no binoculars. Apparently, this is what was said. And yeah, he was the one that sounded the alarm, so to speak, to let them know that there was an iceberg inbound.
Iceberg to the head.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. Say, dude, you had one job. Job.
Yeah. And that, do you know what? That guy beat himself up forever. He killed himself in the end. He just went through so much shit in life, like guilt, trauma, everything and anything. And bless him, he took his own life. And it's a sad story. Once I started looking into it, I think he took his own life. It was either in his friend's garden or his friend found him in his garden. It was something like, again, I covered it about 3 or 4 years ago, but it was real sad ending. And you think, wow, poor guy, you know. Well, for anyone to have gone through anything on that Titanic.
You know, when you talk about when you went to Belfast, because I've been to Belfast and I've seen what you're talking about, where she was, because there was 3 of them, the Olympic, Britannic, and Titanic, and I saw it. I've actually seen the dry dock that she was in, and it's huge. It's enormous, and when you see it, it almost takes your breath away because you're like, if that's big. Imagine how big the Titanic was. But then everyone, I mean, all of us, I know Val, if she was here, she would say that she definitely feels like she was on the Titanic or she had something to do with it. And I think it was such a terrible I mean, I don't even want to say an accident because there's so many conspiracy theories about what happened to the Titanic. Was it the Titanic? Was it the Britannic or the Olympic? We don't know. But it's like that is a graveyard on water, and obviously as you go, I've always wanted to go to where I hate boats, but I would actually get on a boat and actually go above it if I could. I wouldn't go down. There's nothing that would pay. Well, I'd love to see her. I've got to be honest. I'm one of these people, and I know it sounds horrible, but I would love to bring that ship up and give those people a proper burial, but because obviously they see it as they're all gone anyway. And it is a graveyard. But to me, she was we'd find out so much more about what happened to those people on board by bringing her up. But it's like when you go over to, is it Halifax? I think it's Halifax.
Yeah,
I guess you'd like to go there, wouldn't you?
Yeah, I mean, I'd go to anywhere with a bit of sort of history where I could tell a story and look into things and find out a bit more about the place. And yeah, the Titanic's such a big subject, and I get requests for it all the time. I went to the captain of the Carpathian's grave as well, who was the rescue ship that came in and got. So he's buried in Southampton. So I've covered his as well. But with the Titanic, like you say, and on my video, what I've done is I've stood in front of that dry dock and then I've superimposed like the Titanic into it. So you see me standing there with nothing behind me, and then I've superimposed it into it so you can see how big it really is. And you're like, wow, obviously I've tried to keep it to scale as much as possible. But I did that on my Belfast video when I went out there. So yeah, the Titanic it's one of those it's like an endless pit of information, isn't it really? But the Ocean Gate that imploded, the father and the son, I don't know what they've shipped back to the UK, but they've got a burial plot, and apparently I don't know whether they're scrapings of DNA, I don't mean that disrespectfully, or what it is. Something was shipped back to the family, and they buried them. And I've covered their graves because I went there when it was just like a little marker, and now they've actually got headstones in, and they're in Surrey somewhere actually.
I saw a mortician show, and if you know anything about deep water diving and the Bell, they have been full-grown people basically pulled through pinholes, and there's nothing left. And she's like, I won't get a lot of trouble for this, but quick as they heard the pop, everybody was become one. And
it's really sad.
And I get it, her audience is dark and manob or whatever you want to call it. And I'm like, it's not really polite to say soupy fish food. And I'm like, yeah. I'm like, that's, but like you said, but I guess she wanted to do it to kind of overemphasize once everything imploded at that depth, that everything become just, like one mangled soup of people. And I'm like, and I'm like,
I
wow.
That thing, if you pay me all the money in the world.
There is no amount of money that I would pay to. I'd love to see the Titanic. I really would.
Here's a T-Moo Xbox controller. Let me put you in my barrel, and I'm like, no.
I don't care how much is on the table. I'm not getting in that.
Talking of Portsmouth, the Mary Rose. Everybody from the UK, obviously, the Mary Rose was one of Henry VIII's flagship, and it went down just a few moments after it was literally left, and it was overloaded with a lot of people on it, a lot of weaponry, and it had a net over it so that it stopped other people jumping on board, and obviously when the ship when it turned and it went down, they couldn't get out, and basically sadly they lost them all. Have you ever been there? Have you been to what was your feeling when you went there?
That is because with the Mary Rose, of course, in Portsmouth we've got HMS Victory and HMS Warrior as well, which it's beautiful. If you ever get a chance, if you're ever over, Michael, head to the dockyard, Matt, because it's so great.
I'm taking donations on my PayPal for that. You know what I'm saying? If I can play, that's what I told him. I said, if you want to get me to the UK, I'm taking donations. Everybody else does it, and I'm like, everybody's like, oh, donate just a cup of coffee, but I've always had like too much pride. But I told Wendy does that. I'm like, I really want to come to the UK. I'm gonna start telling them, hey.
Tell people about the Nelson and Victory.
Yeah, so of course, Victory was Nelson's ship, of course, and yeah, I mean they have put that. I mean, I don't know what state it was in when it finished working, if you like, when it sort of went into dry dock, but they have restored it so beautifully and to almost to scale. So if you're walking around it, you really feel what those guys must have felt. And the ceilings are so low. I mean,
people were short back in the day. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
you know, I'm 6'3", so I'd be in a damn giant.
You'd be in a right. I mean, I'm 5'10", and I hit my head in there, so you'll be in right shit sleeping.
Yes, because what they do as you go in, it's like you're on the ship.
Yeah.
And it goes. You feel like there's that slight swaying feeling when and it's in the dark. You know, it's quite dark when you actually see the Mary Rose, and you can hear the bell, and also they put a hologram, don't they? And what I felt when I was I don't know if you felt that when you saw the Mary Rose, but I felt like so sad. So sad, like an anger, lots of anger there. Did you pick up anything like that when you were there with her?
I did, but I'll let you into a little fun fact. I was actually working. I joined an acting school over the road many years ago, and they wanted someone to dress up as King Henry VIII to be in the dockyard. So guess what? Mug got that job. So I'm walking around, actually buying a Mary Rose, talking to people as King Henry VIII. Now, my history knowledge is okay, but I don't know too much about him and his life and whatnot. So the guy that sort of got me the job went, just here's the costume, just dress up and walk around and talk to people. So even though it's still quite heavy, I didn't really have a lot of time on my own there because everyone just wanted. I don't nothing like bloody Henry VIII. Well, I don't think I do anyway. But everyone just wanted photos, so I didn't really have a chance to sort of really take it all in. But what they have done is, like you say, it has to constantly be drained with water. They have to constantly keep spraying it to keep it moist. And it's, I don't know, when you went there, Wendy, was it like behind a big sort of panel?
It was. I actually saw her years ago. I mean, that tells you my age. I actually saw her on Blue Peter when they actually brought her up in the news early in the morning.
I remember that.
And then I remember going to see it when she was in dry dock and they were putting water on her all the time. And I mean, it was amazing. I actually got to see that. And then I actually went to see her as she is now. Now, I'm a massive Tudor buff. It's my favorite. I should have been historian. My favorite time. So anything with Henry VIII, I'm a buff on. But when I saw the ship, it was just how small, and all these people. And the saddest thing for me was the dog, how they'd gone down and retrieved all the bones. Because obviously when she sank, is it like a sort of clay water or it's quite muddy, isn't it?
Yeah, it's quite all sort of muddy and murky. She went down like on a side angle as well, didn't she?
That's right.
She sat like that for years.
Yeah.
And that's why they had to be careful when they restored it, didn't they? There's a lot of engineers with physics involved and which way can we turn her and not. Yeah. So but the water there is not, because you've got Portsmouth Harbour.
Yep.
You've got all the Royal Navy going for it, of course, constantly, and all the ferries. So when they were raising that in, was it 82, 83? I can't remember now. I remember being at school and we went down there for the day, like on the beach and stuff. But yeah, and so you've got that constant crap oil and the sewage runs out near there as well. So it's not the most pleasant of water.
Did you not find though with they actually want to bring up the other part because the other part is still down there. And they are talking about trying to raise enough money to because obviously this has been up for many years now, but they're trying to bring up. But what I found was fascinating is I mean, it's interesting when some ships go down, there is nothing left of a person. Other times there is some small remains, and obviously with the Mary Rose there was, because they've done reconstruction of a lot of the people, and there's one of an archer, and near me is a very famous manor house called Carew Manor, and one of the Carews was actually I think he was leading leading on the ship, and he went down with it. But the saddest thing for me was the dog. You know, they always had a dog and a cat and everything on board for the rats and everything, and they've actually managed to get all the bones of the dog, and for people saying that there's nothing left of a body's, I think there's a I don't normally look at the comments, but a body is not a person, but it's the essence of that person. Of course it is. And they brought up all those bones.
If you don't leave the dog behind, dog's man's best friend.
And you see,
I would leave people behind before I leave my dog behind.
You actually see the little the dog, and you just, I mean, that just made me feel.
Yeah, it's heartbreaking, isn't it?
Yeah, it did. It's because the fear that must have happened that day, and that's why, because you're just near there, I was interested how you felt when you saw it.
Yeah, well, I like I say, it was difficult for me because at that time I was sort of working. I was in work mode, so I didn't really have a chance to just relax around it because I'm dressed as bloody King Henry. His pair of tights on, these shoes, and his God knows what else I had on. I'll try and find a picture and send it to you. But so I didn't really. Sorry.
Go on. No, I was going to say, did you when you went there and other sort of areas, you're talking about Salem and Portsmouth, and you visit a lot of churches and also graveyards. Have you ever gone somewhere and it was like you didn't get a good feeling and you just wanted to go?
Too much, too or overwhelming, just too much energy that you could not process.
I'm trying to think. When I went to Tony Hancock's grave, who was a comedian from you'll know it was Wendy. It was dark. It was pitch black basically. I got there because it was an open churchyard, so there was no gates or anything like that to get into. And I was just before I walked in, I thought something don't feel right here. It just feels off. And when I walked in, there was a guy asleep on the bench, and it frightened the bloody life out of me. I was like, showing around with my torch, poof, and there's a body there. And he was awake because afterwards, after I finished filming, I went and got him a coffee. But he must have been absolutely frozen. I was frozen walking along, but it was weird because I didn't know he was there before I went in, but something inside me was just saying to me, there's something in this churchyard. There's something in this churchyard. And I didn't know whether it was a human, a spiritual thing, or something nasty, or a wild animal. It could have been. I know we don't get any dodgy wild animals in the UK, but I don't know. There was just something internally, just sort of like going beep beep, like just get your head and your wits about you. And then when I stumbled across him, I thought, Christ, I wonder if that was me just getting a little picking up from his energy or not. I don't know. But when I'm in those sort of situations, I'm always cautious because you don't know A, whether that person is alive or dead, and B, whether they're going to be a nice person or a piece of crap, or or in a bad mood or whatever. So
addiction or whatever. We have a lot of that here. A lot of the people who are asleep on the, that they could be I'm trying to be nice here, mentally altered from pharmaceutical help. But I was going to ask you, the Queen Mary, he's talking about coming back to the States. I said, that California ain't real America, but but they got the Queen Mary there, and I always wanted to go spend the night on the Queen Mary because they said it is one of the most haunted ships ever. I don't know why, but I don't know what went wrong there. But everybody talking about having these, experiences or whatever. I'm thinking, and it's like 5,800 miles.
I'd like to see that too. She looks gorgeous.
And
have you went on a cruise recently, Paul? I did notice that on your channel. You went on a cruise, so you're not adverse to the water yourself.
No.
Where do you fancy going next? What's on your list of where you're going?
Well, in terms of graves, my ultimate, as in the one I want to go to, is up in Northwest in Seattle, because I want to go to Brandon Lee and Bruce Lee's grave. I like Bruce Lee, don't get me wrong, legend, but I love Brandon Lee. And when he got killed, mate, because I love The Crow, again, I love Crow, so I've got Bill
absolutely
affiliation with that film. It's one of my favorite films, and it really touched me when he died. I don't know why, it just something inside him. What the hell? So he's my ultimate grave, and it's just fitting that obviously he's buried next to his dad. So that's my number one I want to get to in the world. Secondly, believe it or not, is Canada, is George A. Romero, director of Dawn of the Dead, because Dawn of the Dead is one of my favorite horror films.
Oh yeah.
And George A. Romero to me was just a horror genius. Him and John, as you can see in the background, I've got Zombies Dawn of the Dead picture there and Halloween there. So him and John Carpenter for me are both the kings of horror. I know John Carpenter's still alive, but yeah, George A. Romero would be my next one. So Canada is obviously, and I've spoken to Scott on Tape before, a guy who is a lot bigger than my channel and does this sort of work in America. And he's from Canada actually, and he said to me, if I go out there, he'll take me and show me it. So yeah, that's on my to-do list. But in terms of the UK,
yeah,
probably Scotland is where I need to get my ass up to next.
What's the guy that I can't remember. They ended up William Wallace. I always wanted to go to him.
Yeah, William Wallace.
Yeah, because that they decapitated him, cut it, drawed and quartered and whatever. And I'm like,
yeah, everything and anything done to him, didn't he?
I'm like,
and what about Europe? Have you been? Tell us where you've been in Europe. What sort of famous grave sites have you been to in Europe?
Just trying to think actually. I mean, I've done some filming in Norway, but there was no famous graves out there. Where else have I been? I've been to Spain, but again, there was no. I haven't really done any famous graves in Europe. I don't think. I need to get my backside to Paris because I want to go and do Jim Morrison's. That's again another big one. But Paris, I will get my backside out there, but it's a bit dicey at the moment. Lots of things going on out there, as we all know. So I want to make sure I've got someone to watch my back so I don't have a camera nicked or anything like that. So I need to get someone to come out with me for that.
If they want to take up donations, I'll come. Because like I said, I've got the experience, and they and when you
together would be like a force of nature.
And sometimes I know that Americans get like this bad press because we're like big and brash and loud. Then there's like a mom of like 7 kids. This girl stole her passport. She jerks her up by the hair and head. She's like, "Give me my shit or I'll beat your ass." And I'm like, well, maybe we are big and brash. Even the moms are over here kicking asses, taking their shit back. But no, I was going to ask you about going, because you are closer to France than like Jim Morrison and a lot of them.
Yeah.
But I was going to say, have you ever thought about Arlington Cemetery in our nation's capital? Because they got the JFK, they got RFK, Jackie Kennedy. Let me see if I can get this right.
Jackie Kennedy.
Yeah, Onassis. And they had the tomb of the unknown soldier and stuff like that. And if you've never seen the changing of the guard, like I said, you're person. Like I said, I tell them I'm a big old rough guy, but even when I see the guys, everything is just lockstep. It's like, you just get my hair's crawling now, and I'm thinking, hey, but would you ever think of a trip of coming over and seeing some of the famous graves like in Arlington, because that's like our big national cemetery?
Yeah, 100%.
And I know, let me see, what is it? In Greenville, Tennessee, which is not too far south of me, the guy I was trying to think, because my friend Tracy, she lives down there, and she was telling me, she's like, I did not know he was buried like 2 miles from my house. This guy was, he's like, all this history and stuff. And I'm like, well, read me the plaque. And she sent it to me, and I cannot remember who it was, but it was somebody that was like really big and found in the state of Tennessee, buried like 2 miles from our house, like in a national cemetery. And I'm like, you just got to go look. Then, Wendy told me you was coming on, and I found your channel, and I'm like, this dude is doing what I want to do. That's the reason it took me a while to calm down and breathe. I've been running around all day, and I'm like, I got so many questions, I'm like,
so excited.
Shit.
Would you like to go and see the famous Hollywood cemetery, where a lot of people, I mean, I know you do both sides. You do celebrities, and you also do, just everyday folk. But I mean, people like Marilyn Monroe and etc. like that. I mean, for me, it's not really like a graveyard, is it? For some of them, they're in the sort of tomb with just sort of like, and
mausoleum type stuff.
Very safe way, I guess, of protecting. And is there anywhere? And obviously, Graceland is somewhere I'd love to go. Have you done that yet?
Yeah, I'd love to go see Elvis. I mean, that again is up within the top 3 or 4 for me, easy. Elvis, legend, and of course you've got His daughter's there now, isn't she? Bless her. And
Yeah.
did his grandson die recently as well? A few years ago, I think it was Alex's grandson. So all the ones in America: Forest Lawn, Hollywood, Hill Cemetery. There's so many that I want to go over there, but I think with that, they're quite close together actually. So that's something where I could book, maybe get an Airbnb or a hotel, sort of in the middle, and then try and get them all done over. Well, not all of them, but as much as I can.
When you're doing your little thing, because I noticed you say in some of your videos, you know, some people, like some of the grave diggers and people that are taking care of the lawns, they're like, you can't film here, you can't do this. Do you find that, do you get sort of, is there quite, people sort of wonder what you're doing, or do you kind of do it? I mean, I know you're very respectful, but do you get a lot of difficulty sometimes?
I've only had 2 lots of people in terms of working in the cemetery that have got the ump with me. One was in Manchester when I was in South Central, but I was looking for the victims then of Hindley and the other one, what's his name, Brady. So, but I didn't tell them what I was in there for. They saw me filming with a camera and I had a big hoo-ha. They were going, you can't film in here. Yes, I can. I'm in the cemetery, blah, blah, blah. Mind your own business. But then they called other people and said but luckily I managed to get everything that I wanted filmed in that cemetery first, because they told us to clear off, because I had my mate Lee with me. But I got it all filmed and then I went out. And the other one was, it was one of the London cemeteries, and this lad come over and he started kicking off. He worked there. And I said, look, mate, I'm not hurting anyone. He was like over there working. I was over there just walking, talking to the camera. And he said, what are you doing? I said, I'm just filming. I said, I'm just talking to myself. I said, I'm not interrupting with anyone. And then he's on the radio. So I've only had it twice. But other than that, I am very conscious. I try and get there first thing in the morning as soon as it opens. Luckily, with cemeteries, they might say 8 a.m. opening, but the parkkeepers, they're usually around there about 7 or past, and they open up. So I get in there as soon as I've been sat outside waiting for them sometimes, like snoozing in the car, waiting for the bloody parkie to turn up. And then I go in, I film, and then I'm out again. So I always try and do everything, even if I'm doing multiple ones. I never try and do anything after like 11 a.m. You know, I try and just get everything done as quickly as I can. But yeah, if I see a service or a funeral, I'll stay well out of the way. I won't.
Tell us about your research, because there's something I haven't asked you yet. Tell us how you research and what draws you to that particular one. How do you research?
Usually, now I've got to a point where people suggest things to me. So in the early days, I'd have to go, right, I know that person's dead, and it'd just be my own knowledge because I liked TV shows or films that they may have been in. So then I go, there's a website called Find a Grave. You've probably heard of it, and it has listings of all the graves on there. But that has led me up the garden path too many times. So I research a lot more nowadays. In the early days, I go, oh, that's there. Drive halfway up the country, and you'll find it's not there. And you're like, shit, now I've just driven all this way, and the person isn't here. So I don't rely on that anymore. I look into newspaper ins or media stuff to see if that's where the person is. I used to, I don't know more, but I used to just literally copy some Wikipedia text and speak that, because I never had the time to sit and write my own information. And I used to get a lot of crap over it. People go, no, you're just reading Wikipedia. And I'm like, well, I don't have that knowledge in my head. I've got to get it from somewhere. And I work. I do this, I do that. I then got to drive to that location. So I didn't really have the time to sit and literally write it all out. Now, because of that, it's like a self-pride thing for me. Now I do the research and I write it into my own paragraphs, but I keep it a lot less. Before I would talk for literally about 12 or 15 minutes. Because I would just be reading it from Wiki. But now, probably about the last 7 months, maybe a bit longer, I just get the information and I'll write about 7 or 8 minutes worth of talking, because that's feasible for me to do then. And then I don't get so much shit from people.
Yeah, because I've noticed obviously you film in all winds and weathers, and you know, there's been some drenched video from you, and also like, you know, oh my god. But looking at some of your work, it's like you're right. You have to give people the background of where you're going and who you're seeing. And of course, some of that, you know, as you say, that's how you, by studying, you find out. Do you find in your own personal life, because you do have a personal life apart from what's on YouTube. But you and I obviously met through your love of Supernatural, like with Jeffrey Dean Morgan, wasn't it? You were coming to see.
Yes.
And,
I won't hold that against you. I've tried to watch that show. I just can't get into it. But
I've seen a lot of your stuff. Like, yeah, I know the tattoo.
I've got the Impala there. Look, it's tattooed on my arm. Can you see
really?
it?
Oh my God!
Oh yeah, he does. I was going to say, where's the TARDIS now? Now we can be buddies. Now, if you can answer
about your love for Supernatural, what is it that and The Crow, and what is it that draws you into those?
I've always been into, like, excuse me, I'm just going to turn my heating down. I'll do it by my phone. It's bloody hot in here. I've always been into, like, weird stuff like horror, and as a kid growing up, I used to watch horror films all the time. I used to sit there. My brother sort of got me into it because he used to watch them with my nan, and then when I was a little bit older, my nan would allow me to watch them as well. And my very first film that scared me, but funny enough, was Michael Myers' Halloween. I've got in my t-shirt. That character used to scare the shit out of me as a kid, because that white face, emotionless, just go around. And but I was obsessed with that and Dawn of the Dead. I always wanted zombies to happen as a kid. I was like, yeah, let's get that shit going. Do you know what I mean? So I've always liked horror and stuff like that. At Halloween, growing up in the 70s, my brother and I used to have Halloween parties, and kids at school back then in the UK, they're like, what's Halloween? Yeah, what are you doing?
Oh yeah.
No one really gave a shit about it. No one really had, but me and my brother did. We had all our mates around, everyone was dressed up, we'd have pumpkins and shit and all sorts. Yeah, so I've got this sort of not obsession, but I've got this real likeness to that sort of genre. And my ex-wife, funnily enough, got me into Supernatural. She went, have you ever seen Supernatural? I was like, no, what's that? And I watched 2 and I was hooked. I was like, fuck yeah, this is cool. This is right up my street. 2 brothers going around, killing shit, piss-arsing around, getting laid, drinking, everything and anything that a young guy would like to have in their life. So I was like, yeah, I can get with this. And of course, I love muscle cars and all that sort of stuff. So that all, which we don't have enough of, sadly, in the UK.
Well, no, we don't. We need more. But
I know a guy. You know what I'm saying?
There's a guy. But when you and I met, there was such a queue for Jeffrey Dean Morgan, quite understandably. And when I met him myself, it's almost a surreal experience, actually. You're kind of like this. And I've got a video of you in him chatting. And I'm sure I'll put it out. If not, I'll have to do it. And the other thing I was going to ask you is about objects, because obviously you go and visit like the graves and stuff, but there's like the famous objects that people have had that have, that are left, and some of them are in museums and all. Like, obviously, are you interested in seeing things like that and going? And it must intrigue you, I'm sure.
Yeah, I did a Halloween special last year, and we went to a place in Leicester, and it was like an old haunted. But the building wasn't supposed to be haunted, but the things that were in there were supposed to have had some sort of attachment somewhere. But there was only a few little things that happened. I was expecting a lot, because again, I have high hopes when I hear that this is haunted, that's haunted, that's haunted, and I think, well, if you've got it all in one place, surely some things must happen now and again. But it was just a flat night, sadly. It was just one of those nights. But yeah, I love things like that, and I love the sort of psychometry. Oh, you can't touch this because you'll be dead within a week. Oh yeah, really? Where's that? And I'm like one of them people. It's not like I like to push my luck, but I'm like.
I was going to say, that they've lost Annabelle. The guy that had Annabelle died. Then the other guy that was like the co-owner decided, they're going to take her to Texas, and now Annabelle has disappeared.
Yeah.
So,
shit.
I'm not sure I'd have the confidence to touch Annabelle. I mean,
oh no. When he said talk about touching, I'm like no. I'm like no.
But I mean, it's like James Dean's car, obviously,
the Porsche, a little bastard. Oh yeah,
and stuff like that. And when you go to these museums, or you go to, like, for instance, there's a church near me, St Mary's Church in Bennington. There's lots of rumours that Sir Walter Raleigh is buried in there, or part of him was buried in there. There's lots of rumors about it, and you know, because, and there's sort of rumors that his wife carried around his head in a bag for until she died. There's lots of rumors about it. And I think that's the thing that draws people, isn't it, to go and visit. It's like, it starts from somewhere. And I think with Supernatural, when it came on, because it's been a big thing in my life as well as yours, it covered so many areas of life that people were interested in, the paranormal, you know, hauntings, and because paranormal is very different. It covers so many things to like just where a haunted is. The Woman in White remains one of my favorite episodes, where, you know, they're on the bridge and the car is coming towards him and he's like, where's the keys? And he's like, I've got them here. And the car, so when I got the Impala, when I brought her over, there's a kind of an energy, and it's a couple of people have said it to me that have, you know, when I've taken them out or they've had it for a wedding, they're like, the car has a presence, like you feel you're not alone when you're in it. And it's absolutely true. You don't feel it. It feels like there's someone there with you, and you sort of think to yourself, well, hopefully it's someone who had it previously.
I don't know if Paul knows the story about where the hunters come from, or like the backstory. I know it. She told me, and I was like, oh, she's from Alabama. She's a Southern lady. She has her, you know, she has her own, you know, Southern graces. Yeah. But the man bought it for his wife, and she passed. So he kept the car, kept it tagged, kept it parked in a garage or a barn find. That's what we call them here. I got a guy that I know here. It's got like 60 Corvettes. Wow. I'm like, damn, you know, save some for the rest of us. But so I know the guys like that. It digs through the barns and all this stuff. So when she found the car, I think he had passed, and the family was like, we need to do something with the car. So basically, there's only 2 owners before she came back or came to the UK, because it was the man's wife got it when he, you know, so the same couple owned the car, then the guy that they had given to the sale. So she had very low miles. The lady had passed. So I think the lady is part of the car. There's just something about it, you know, when I've been on the phone with her and she's around the car, it has that Southern, just, you know, little old lady vibe. And that's what I tell people, you know, years ago here, you might pull up to a red light and some grandma is sitting in a Chevelle that's pushing 425 horses to the wheels. Because, you know, she's going to spank your ass from red light to red light. You know, it is like the sleepers, like the grocery getter that, you know, but I always think that it's the lady, because the man loved the car, loved his wife. And even when she passed, he's like, no, I need to hold on to this car because it was hers.
I just hope I do it proud. I am going to open up the show, because I'm sure there's people that want to talk to Paul and ask questions. So I'm going to open that up. If you want to call in, I'm going to put the link in, because Paul, I mean, we could talk to you day and night. And like we said to Mark, when Mark came on, we were like, literally, 2 weeks. I could talk to you forever. So I'll put the link up now if people want to call in and talk to, because we can't monopolize you, but we really want to. But I do owe you that ride in the Impala. So you have to come up, and we have to do that soon.
Yes, definitely. Right. Again, seeing the picture of it then, I'm like, what a car, you know.
And all the autographs that's on it, you know, she's got, and I'm a huge Stargate fan, which is now filming in London. Yeah. I'm like, you know, all the fucking places, you know. I want to go through the gate just once. But I was going to ask you, who's your doctor? Being in the UK, I know that there's everybody has a different ideal. You know, Dr. Hughes is a huge part of the culture in the UK.
Oh, for me, it's a toss up. It's between Tom Baker and John Pertwee. It's one of them two. I love John Pertwee because he played Wurzel Gummidge, and I loved Wurzel Gummidge as a kid. Yeah. So it's between those two, and I can never quite. If we're talking modern day, I'm not. If I've got to be honest, I'm not a big Doctor Who fan. However, I've obviously seen it. Modern day, I would go for David Tennant, but olden school, I would go for Pertwee or Baker.
Yeah. That's when I started to watch it. Scotty, welcome to the show. Welcome.
Hey, Wendy.
So Paul, this is a lovely
Hi,
Paul.
Polly.
Have you've been watching the show backstage? What's your sort of any questions you want to ask the lovely Paul?
I do. And Paul, I have to admit it, and don't be offended. I didn't even know who you were until Wendy had you on. America versus, Great Britain. So we don't get your show. If we get it over here, I've never seen it. But I wanted to ask you, because of all the things that you do, you go to all of these places. It sounds like you do a lot of, you want to tell the tale. You want to tell the stories. You want to get the feel of the place. Have you ever taken your show and gone into actual physical, paranormal investigating, ghost hunting, things like that, equipment, psychics, whatever it might be? Or do you stay away from that? Or is that what you do with the show as well?
With this particular show, with this channel, I stay away from it. I do cover it a little bit at Halloween, just as a little bit of a Halloween special. However, I used to do a lot of paranormal investigations. I've done it for over 20 years. And I did have I've still got a channel there, but I don't upload to it anymore. It's got about 3 or 4 videos on there, I think. But yeah, it's something that I try and keep this channel away from, because I think this channel's found its own little niche now. And there are so many other paranormal channels that
it's so overdone. Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't want to trap on a lot of people's toes. And I've got a lot of friends that still work in there, and they've got their own channels. So sometimes they're very kind and they invite me to go along with them, which is great, and I do that. But then I just end up being more of a guest on their show as opposed to me filming it for mine. But I have done a couple for Halloween before. But yeah, that's basically where I go.
Okay.
I do still got a strong interest in the paranormal.
Yeah, if you see his videos, you'll see there is some interaction, like in the churches and some of the older churches that he goes to. He's like,
that's cool. Yeah, I've got you. I've subscribed now, so I'm gonna have to go take a look. I'm gonna have to binge watch your shows.
Oh, I did. They're addictive. Once you start watching one, they just roll, and it's just like.
And I was very intrigued when you were talking a little while back about all the ships. You were talking about the Victory, Admiral Lord Nelson, the Mary Rose. I was there, and I stood on the deck of the HMS Victory. And you're right about going below deck. You're like, were they all short people, or the Mary Rose? That was back when they had it and they were keeping it wet. So it was a long time ago I was there. But I've also been to the Queen Mary here a few times in Long Beach. And if you haven't done the Queen Mary, that is really an awesome, exciting place to go. Something I did like, and you may have seen it, I was a huge X-Files fan.
Oh yeah.
And do you remember they did an episode of the X-Files on the Queen Mary, closed it all up, and they filmed it as the ship during World War II. And it was a very neat episode. And I said, hey, I know that place. I know that hallway. And so, there were a lot of things that took place there, and a lot of people I knew that had experiences there.
Wasn't she a hospital ship? She was a hospital ship, right? During World War II, she was a hospital ship.
I don't know if that's all she did. She transported soldiers, but I don't know if it was just strictly a hospital ship.
Well, I mean, she's a beautiful ship. I mean, I'm just looking at the Queen Mary now. Just so she was from 1936 to 67, premier transatlantic vessel and World War II troop ship. She's, as Scotty says, in Long Beach, California since 67. And she's indeed beautiful. So that's somewhere you want to go for sure, Paul, right?
Yeah, definitely. It's got, like you say, it's got so much history to it. And I've seen lots of paranormal programs like Ghost Adventures. They've been on there, and a couple of the other ones as well. And yeah, it's definitely a place which would pique my interest, shall we say.
And there's so many places over here that if you were to create an itinerary and say, we're going to go to the United States for 30 days and we're going to film at all these different sites, there'd be so many cool places you could go over here. And one other place I have been that I wanted to make mention of over there, if you've been there or not, was Glencoe in Scotland, and where the massacre took place at Glencoe in the 1690s, I want to say. and where the McDonald's fell on the camels, or was it the other way around? The camels on the McDonald's, and they wiped out every man and some of the older people, and they left the women and children. And you go to Glencoe, and you know what it looks like with the big mountains there, and you stand there, and it's palpable. You can feel it. You walk in, and you can feel what happened there. And I'm not a psychic or anything like that.
Oh, his mic's gone.
Oh, his mic's gone.
It comes and goes. But you've got to get to Scotland. You haven't been there yet, have you, Paul?
No, I've not doing this. No, I've only, like I say, I've only been there once for a wedding many moons ago, and I was a bit too drunk.
Now, you brought this up.
You got to wear your kilt.
Let's talk about Paul's other career, which he doesn't talk about too much. He's a bit of a celebrant, aren't you?
Yes, I'm a celebrant. So I conduct funerals and wedding services and other bits and pieces now and again. So it's taken a little bit of a back burner at the moment because I'm just working hard with everything else. But I've got a funeral next week actually to cover. But bless it, my friend's mum, and I've been very kindly asked by the family to do that for him because she was a lovely lady. So so it is something that I do, and again, I'm in that sort of environment of, it's not with my celebrant, as most celebrants, it's not religious. So it's just about saying the right things. And it's more about a celebration of a person's life. So it's just talking about what they did and, their background. So it's quite similar in what I do with Unusual Things, but they're already buried, obviously, and have been passed for a while. But yeah, with a similar sort of thing. You do a bit of fact finding, you get the history on the person, and then you almost sort of tell their story at their funeral. So it's a real privilege.
Like the town choir come out and say, "Hear ye, hear ye." Let me tell you. But I was going to ask you, there was a church you did, and when you go in, it's like you kept saying, "This looks like a private residence. I don't know if I'm allowed to be here." And you had to walk and walk and walk. Then you see the church, and when you go through and kind of over to the left, there was an old ruin that just looked like it was like Roman time that had been there forever. Yeah. And I'm thinking, it is so maintained and well kept. And I'm thinking, and like I said, I don't get jealous of many countries, because like I said, I'm proud of where I'm from. And I'm like, this place is absolutely phenomenal.
I think where it was.
But like I said, it's the big archways, and you can see the stonework still hanging there and stuff. And I'm like, I'm thinking, and the little church was, like I said, everything. But when you walk through, and it's just so real, you could hear like that. There was no like modern noise. It was just like the countryside and like the little brick. And I'm thinking, this dude has a cool ass job,
Thank you.
I have to ask you about George Michael, because that was quite a big thing. You actually stayed in his home, right?
Yeah, I stayed in his it's his, what they call his pool house, or his summer house, I think it's called. And it's on the actual house where he passed away. Private owners have bought it now, so they rent out like the pool house as an Airbnb. So you can, yes, expensive, but I was very privileged again, luckily enough. I just literally wrote to them and said, "Can I come and film for YouTube?" And she looked at my work and went, "Yeah." So I was very lucky that I got to stay there for free for the evening. But yeah, that was a real surreal experience, because I was in his pool, swimming around in his pool, and you're like, wow.
So you said when you're a fanboy thing, like I was earlier, like I said, it took me a while to get calmed down, because like I said, I've been thinking for 2 weeks. That's kind of the reason I was wanting to talk to you beforehand. But so I could kind of get some of that nerves out of the way, because I'm like, I'll watch it. And like I said, I'll watch 3 years worth of videos, because like I said, when I'm working here in my studio or my office, I usually have a monitor up, and I keep it kind of low or whatever, and I'll be looking over and I'll be like, holy shit, But like I said, then I saw, like I was asking you earlier about the big tent mausoleum that has the wind in the back, and I'm like, this dude is seeing all the coolest shit, you know what I'm saying, and I'm like. Then he gets up there and he rubs it off, and you can see him. There's 2 caskets here. There's like these big pictures hanging on the wall, and I'm thinking, I really want to go check that out. I'm like, holy hell!
I'm going to ask a couple of questions here. So going back to George's home, he was a big influence when I was young, because I grew up with Wham, and obviously huge when I was in my teens, and then obviously he went solo. The world misses him greatly. He's and obviously being in his home. What a great honor, and to be in his personal home as well. I mean, I remember seeing your videos, and you were just like, I can't believe this is almost. And the other two, there's two people that I wanted to ask you about. One was Kenny Everett, because he was really when I was growing up, he was just huge, and sadly died. One of the first people, one of the celebrities in the UK to die of HIV, and sadly went into full blown to AIDS, which was very sad. You been to see Kenny Everett's?
Well, Kenny was cremated. And he was cremated at the same place that I can't remember exactly where it is, but what's his name? Beckinsale, Kate Beckinsale's father. From Porridge?
The guy from Porridge.
Yeah, I've got his first name now. All these names floating around my head, I forget them. Mm-hmm. But he was cremated the same place as him. So I do speak about Kenny Everett whilst I'm and on that video. On the thumbnail, it's got like a picture of him. But yeah, he again was cremated and family took the ashes. So there's no real place that you can go and pay your respects to for Kenny, which is a shame because I'm the same as you. I went into, like I said, I went into radio. And so Kenny was such a massive influence because he just piss ass about his whole life was just messing about, wasn't it? On radio and TV.
I mean, he was the one who actually introduced Bohemian Rhapsody by Queen. It was on, no one else would play Bohemian Rhapsody because it was too long. It's 6.5 minutes. It was too long. And Kenny was like, darling, we'll play it. And obviously he knew Freddie Mercury very well. Nobody knows exactly where darling Freddie is. And the thing is, I was saying this to Mark the other day, more and more people are getting cremated, because it's so expensive to get buried.
Absolutely.
And also from in England, obviously space for, because I think you're allowed so many years. Is it 80 years, something like that?
Yeah.
Did they dig you up and move you somewhere else? Which I thought was, and I read somewhere they was like stack burying people. It's like they dig down really deep, then they start like stacking you, But I was going to ask you, Pink Floyd, I cannot remember his name. Roger Waters. There's one of them that had passed away.
No, he's still here. Is he Roger gone now? Roger's still here.
But it was one of the people from Pink Floyd because I'm a huge Pink Floyd fan.
Which one is gone? Let's just check that out.
Richard Beckinsale, someone's put in there. Yes, well done. Thank you for
that. Sid Barrett and Richard Wright. Is that right? Pink Floyd.
So somebody put it said Sly Barrett, SYD Barrett. Rapid Dog said
Sid Barrett.
Sid Barrett. I was going to say to you, if you, in time to come, do you want to be buried or do you want to be cremated?
I've got to get out of jail free card.
I
know I want to be buried. I've been very open about that. I don't want to be cremated. The reason being, well, I'm a bit of a piss taker. I'm not religious, right? But
I know where he's going.
If the zombie apocalypse does happen, I want to spruce up. I want to come back and I want to scare some people. So if I'm a pile of bones running around, I'd rather do that than. And also, I hate the idea of being stuck on someone's mantelpiece in a bloody jar. No.
Oh, have you saw where they take the ashes? They put them in a rocket.
Yeah.
And they make you stardust. And I always thought that would be like really cool. But I always wanted to have like a little explosive charge, and I'm like make my ashes, and and there's somebody that I probably want to take one more lick at, just kind of like make me a little.
Michael wants his ashes mixed with glitter.
Pretty much, glitter. Hey, I'm a star child, you know what I'm saying? And that's what I was telling me. We all come from stardust, and everybody's like the big rough guy, whatever.
There's an old religious belief as well. It comes from, I believe, early Judaism, that there would be no resurrection of the body after death if you cremated. You're gone. They would say the body is where it's at, so you got to keep the body. This is why they would put a shroud over it and bury it within 24 hours. plain box. So I thought that was interesting. The
interesting thing about that, what he's saying about that is that pagan, obviously, Viking, they were all cremated. Very much those sort of hardly any burials, more cremated.
The burial ship.
Time, Paul, if you went back in time, where would you like to go? What eras draw you in?
Good question. I suppose it depends what country I was in. If I was in the UK, I would like to go back to Tudor times, just because I'm fascinated with the buildings. I don't know a great deal about the history of that time, but I'm obsessed with Tudor buildings. I just love how they look, and I just get that real feel when I go into them, especially here in the UK. Like if you go into some of the old pubs or hotels, and they've got the natural builds, the all original materials as much as they can do, obviously. I don't know, I just feel at home in them sort of places. If I was in the States, back to the cowboy days. I'd love that. That would be awesome. I would just be in my element.
You get your ass over and I'll put you on a horse.
Wild West.
I'll be like bloody Superman. I'll break my neck or something. I'll be too scared on a horse.
Oh, I got one for greenhorns. But I was going to say that there is a place over there. It's called like the Crooked Building, and it's been around when I first started talking to Wendy. And
the Crooked House.
And it says right here, and they still got the pole for if the woman was like they had dunk her to see if she'd float. And I'm like,
wow.
Oh boy, I'm like,
what do they call them, Paul? Dunking.
It's like the dunking chair or something, and they struck them in it.
Oh, they fall in, yeah.
Yeah, and I'm like, boy, these people was just real pricks to the women who had an attitude back in the day.
There's one in a London pub, actually. There's one pub in London. I can't remember which one, but they still have it. And it's quite scary looking at. Paul, if you had a dinner party and you could invite any 3 people from any walk of life, any country, any history, who would you have?
Wow. Einstein, because I'd love to know how his brain thinks. I would. I'd like to. And from a sort of philosophical and spiritual thing, I think I would like Bruce Lee there, because again, he's so wise with even just his little sayings. You listen to him, and he was well ahead of his time, Bruce Lee. So yeah, Einstein, Bruce Lee, and the third one. Oh wow, where would I go with that? I wouldn't waste it on wanting to have a celebrity there per se. I'd want someone that I could learn something from. I'll tell you what, I'd like to have Freud there, because I'd like to sit on the couch and see what he thinks of me.
Oh yeah. Like I said, when I first started coming on Wicked Women, I got the Freud glasses, and I always told him that and everybody's like, why is that? I said, it always goes back to mommy issues or daddy issues with Floyd. And it's always, this is why you do this. It's always sexual and deviant, whatever. But Einstein is a neat one. And I did a little research on Einstein. He was so smart, he couldn't find his way home. But he found all these women that he could cheat on with. He cheated on his wife a lot. He had a lot of extracurricular activities and friends, and I was like, Einstein getting it in with that haircut. All right, you go.
Paul, you've been to where is it? Westminster Cathedral, right?
I haven't been in there, but I've been. Are you on about the royal place?
The Westminster, the big cathedral in London, the Westminster. Where.
I haven't been there.
You need to go. There's so much up there. I know, and and also, have you been to the Vatican? Would you like to do the Vatican? And
I'd love to go to the Vatican. Yeah, definitely. Because again, the things with me, I know I'd never get there, but I'd love to know the secrets that go on behind that place. Because
open up the archives just once.
That's going to be a whole different world we don't know about, I reckon.
Because I went to years ago. I went to the Colosseum. and obviously they have lots of fake gladiators outside charging you so much money. They don't actually tell you at the time when they take the photograph that how much money it's going to cost you, but they let you take the photograph and then they want to charge you. But I remember going there. It's full of cats. Sadly, there's loads of cats in the Colosseum. It's their home. A lot of sad cats without a home in around that area. But what got to me when I saw the Colosseum was it's not taken care of as much as we take care of our buildings here. But what got me was the feeling of the Colosseum. It was just like, wow, this is where a lot of innocent people were killed, and there's nothing to remember them. There's nothing at all. And the gladiators and the Catholic Church put up a big cross on the Colosseum to apologize for all the things that happened to the Christians and also the innocent people, because obviously they used to fill the Colosseum up with water, and they still don't know today how they floated those boats on there. That's the sort of place I can see you going to, because and there's also so many mausoleums out there as well, some full of bones and etc. from head to toe, and I think you'd really enjoy it over there. You'd love it.
Yeah. I mean, anywhere like that is definitely going to be on like the to-do list at some point, because like you say, that there's a vast audience for it as well. So if you go out there and show people, what I love about what I do on my channel is that I get a lot of viewers that for some reason or another physically can't necessarily get to these places. And I get a lot of thank yous from people that say, thank you, because you've shown me around here, there and whatever. And that makes it all worthwhile. And that's part of the sort of feedback, if you like, that I really like from people, is that you've actually taken them on that journey with you, because they physically can't make it, or they don't have the funds or the time or whatever, but they get to come along and see the places that I get to see, which I'm very fortunate as well. So that's always a real sort of endearing part to me from lovely viewers and things.
Well, I'm aware that you and I are on Greenwich Mean Time, and you have to get up for work in the morning early. But it's been so amazing to have you on, and you're one of these people that we could ask time and time again, come on, tell us this, tell us stories. And Paul, tell everybody where they can find you, not just your YouTube, where they can find you and see your work.
Okay, well, on YouTube it's Unusual Things. So if you go to the search bar at the top, put a little @ sign, then Unusual Things. Can I drop my second channel in there as well?
Of course you can.
Absolutely.
Because on that one, I stay at some Airbnbs, do some wacky things. And you'll like this one, Michael, Scotty. This week I went to an American diner in the UK. The food.
I saw that. I'm thinking, get your ass on an airplane, take your sick days or whatever, come over. I was going to ask you, have you ever done any dowsing before we go around like the similar?
There was a channel, but on the whole, in the past, I've done dowsing. Yes, I found it. I always question myself: is it little movements within my hand, or so I always have. Because another thing that I am is a trained hypnotherapist, so I know about idio movements and things like that. So I'm conscious about that sort of side of
your talent.
I had a good friend who was an archaeologist in Egypt, and he was also a dowser. And he had a set of rods made for me like his. They were wrought iron, and they were done by one of the villagers, and and kind of flat handles on them. And he says, Scotty, you just set them in here. And he's from Hereford. He was British. And so, but he would go, and for other archaeologists, before he had his own site, they would go and he would map out cities that were under the ground. It was like what...
Oh, there goes the mic again.
Yeah, it's YouTube.
Oh, is it?
The mic. Hang on. There you go.
He would do it with... sorry about that. My mic is wonky right now. My soundboard, I should say. And so he would go and map out whole cities underneath the ground in Egypt. And he showed me how it worked, and it was pretty crazy stuff. And you just feel it move. And so dowsing, if you do some of that, get yourself some handmade ones
Mark.
that are made for you,
Yeah.
and they'll work for you.
Have you seen Mark do his dowsing, Paul?
I have not seen Mark do it.
Yeah, he does. He's done a couple of videos because Mark doesn't believe. Well, he would say he does believe, but it's like he does his dowsing. Would you go to Egypt, Paul? Have you been there? I mean, I've
been there. I'd like to, but I don't like extreme heat.
Well, go in January. Yeah. We went in January, and I went to visit my friends over there a few times. And in January to February, you're like 65 to 70 degrees riding a donkey in the Sahara Desert with a Celsius jacket on and a fedora, you know. And
you gotta translate that from Fahrenheit to Celsius.
Oh, sorry, Fahrenheit. 65 to 70 degrees is warm, but not hot. You understand that in Celsius.
Country over here. Literally, Paul, as I said, thank you so much for coming on to Wicked Women. And I can honestly say it's been absolutely from start to finish so many questions, and please come back because I'm sure we'd love
absolutely, because I've got a bunch of questions. And I know Aunt Carlene wanted me to tell you she absolutely loves your work, because like I said, she's in the comments, I got to watch more. She's like, who's coming on? I sent her the link to your channel. She's like, y'all favor. I was like, well, he's 50 years old, so he's not one of mine, Carlene. Let it go. You know what I'm saying? I've traveled, I spread my seed, but no. But I told her, I said, Paul absolutely does. Phenomenal work, dude.
I'm going to leave your seed out of this.
Yeah.
Hey, you know what? Hey, I grow the devil's lettuce. No. But anyway,
Paul, a couple of things before I go. Hope to see you really soon.
Thank you.
Please come up my way, and we'll do that drive out and get Mark to come with us in the Impala. And also, there's so many places up here. You need to come up and see a few of them as well, right? Because I think you find them very interesting. And please come back on to Wicked Women. We would love to have you on here as well. Now, just before I go, as I said, don't forget your TikTok and your YouTube page, Paul.
Oh, yes, right. So where was I? YouTube, Unusual Things, and the other one is Airbnb Reviewer. So a little @ Airbnb Reviewer. On Instagram, Unusual Things. I haven't got one for a second channel on there. I usually put it on there. And Facebook, Unusual Things. So if you type that in, you'll see my ugly mug somewhere or my logo. That'll do.
And you have to show people the tattoo of what's on your hand.
Oh, that's my crow, funny enough. And can you guess which film star I copied that from?
Yeah.
Johnny Depp.
It's lovely.
He's got a crow in his right hand.
Little Brandon Lee.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now that's someone I wouldn't mind at a dinner party, Mr. Depp.
Johnny Depp had it done in honor of Brandon Lee, which I found out afterwards, and I thought, well, that's cool because again, I love crows, blah blah blah. I'm a big Johnny Depp fan as well, so I thought that just sits in nice, and I like that. So that's cool. Yeah. And the other tattoos are just all graves and weird stuff, which I had long Dracula there, the bats, and everything and anything. Really.
And also, like when I follow some of Paul's adventures on his TikTok, as I said to him, I need to come down because we're not far from each other, are we? We're just like an hour's drive. I need to come down and go on a night out because it looks amazing. Like some of the things you get up to, I'm like, I need to do that for sure. Mark did say, he said like we should all like collaborate on something, so that would be really cool. And he's going to come back on to Wicked Women as well, and please do as well. Just to finish the show, I want to just bring up a couple of notices. Wicked Women will be back next Sunday, same time, 9 p.m. We have we did a Robertson show on Thursday the 12th.
We did.
We have our own YouTube channel. Please go and check out Robertson 11 on YouTube and like, share, and subscribe. You'll really enjoy it. And if you haven't subscribed to Wicked Women, we thank those that have, but please carry on. We need more. And,
Absolutely.
you know, it's nice to collaborate with people like Paul, because our viewers and Paul's viewers, we all like kind of join. It's really, really important. And as I say, Robertson will be back on the 26th of February, and Wicked Women will be back next Sunday. We do have quite a few good shows coming up on Wicked Women, as I do on R&R coming up in the future. But there we have a lovely lady joining us soon on Wicked Women. She's quite interesting, and we've had a couple of gentlemen join us in the last couple of weeks. We've had the lovely Dwayne Klassen, who is going to come back as well as Mark. And we have a lady called Charlie Hall, who is going to join us. She's a very interesting, she's a paranormal writer, researcher, investigator, and medium. So I think people will really enjoy Charlie Hall, and I'm actually going for a cup of tea with her soon, so it'd be great fun. Thank you to everybody that's joined us. Scotty, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks,
Steve,
Wendy. Nice to see you, Paul.
Thanks, Scott.
You too, Michael.
And literally, I want to say, Paul, it's been a show. Have you enjoyed yourself?
I've loved it. Yeah, thank you very much. Do you know what? Before I came on earlier on, I got a bit of a hangover today, and I was like, I need to pick my energy up. I
wonder why. I saw the video. I wonder why.
But once I got talking and got going, my energy just lifted, because it's always when you get good vibes with people and good energy and stuff, and the hangover's gone, thank Christ, because I've got to be up early. So yeah, and it's been a real pleasure and an honor. And I've seen some of my lovely viewers have come in and left them messages as well, which is good. So I hope they stick with you guys as well. Go and subscribe to these guys, please. And yeah, I shall make sure that I watch more often now.
Well, the thing is, you know, I'm just going to put this little banner up here.
But I will do, yeah. No.
And also, obviously, we appreciate in the UK, a lot of people watch us the day after, because, you know, Sunday night, going to bed early up and everything. We're coming out at 2:00 Mountain Time, 3 Central and 4 Eastern. So it's kind of like mid-afternoon over there. But for us, it's like, you know, when I get off here, I'm going to have something small to eat and I'm going to bed. Same as you, Paul. But yes, and I will get Mark to film when we all get together, because it will be fine. Cool. Promise us you'll come back.
Yes, 100%, definitely. It's been great.
You know, as much as I want to come over and hang out with Paul and him, I don't think that I can hang with him, because I see Mark with the red wine, and like I said, I saw the videos of him. I'd be like old grumpy grandpa. I'll be like, really, we got to drink more? You know, it's like, it's like, where's the bourbon? but no.
But he's coming out to America. What's really interesting is that Mark is going to be in Florida very soon. Right, he's coming out. Believe it or not, I'm flying out on the 10th of March, and I think he's flying out the next day after, on the 11th, and then I come in. I think it's on the 24th, and he comes in on the 23rd. So I actually said to Mark, maybe, I don't know if we can, maybe we can actually meet in the middle. Yeah. Maybe we can meet in the middle and do something. But I do have to say, we did Strangely Us, and Mark and I have had a little chat, and Strangely Us is returning very soon, and we have some really good ideas coming there, and it'd be great to be back with him, because Mark and I work so well together. But in the meantime, everyone have a great week. Come back on next Sunday, because everybody needs a bit of Wicked on a Sunday. Paul, please just stay with us as I see us out, and everyone, guys, have a safe week. We've enjoyed having you, Paul. Mwah. See you soon.
Thank you both. Appreciate that. And thank you for